Welcome to Hello Kind Soul Podcast, where we raise the vibration of kindness on a global scale. I'm Dr. Ebony Green, your host, and I'm super excited to be with you today. If you want to follow us on all major platforms, look us up at Hello Kind Soul Podcast. And if you want to follow me, look me up at E Green Equity. I hope you enjoy the episode. Have a great day. Welcome to Hello Kind Soul Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Green. I'm so excited to be in community with Dr. Dynell Kellyman, who I know as an amazing human and genuinely a kind soul. But before we get started, Dr. Kellyman, Dynell, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here, first of all. This has been a long time coming. I'm so incredibly proud of you. So I am Dynell. I am a mom. I'm a wife. I am a servant. I love people. I think that this Kind Soul podcast it resonates deeply with me because I think one thing that is incredibly important to me is all of humanity. And so I connect to humanity. And so I can list off all my accomplishments and things of that nature, but I think that's the things that I'm most proud of. Yeah.
I am so excited to have this conversation with you because the way you introduce yourself is literally how you live, right? Like there are a bunch of accolades and you're like, that's what I do. Yeah. And here's who I am.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because this morning I was trying to think about like, what's the best way to really introduce who you are to me? So Dynell and I have known each other quite some time. Yeah. But one of the things, and if y'all didn't get the book, it's actually in the book. I was just going through a really challenging time in life. And I'll never forget it. And Dynell had no idea. Nobody had any idea. And so the day I have a presentation that day to do, and I'm like stressed. The night before I'm crying. I don't get, I'm not really sleeping. I get up. Dynell shows up with her husband, who's an amazing human, Chris, and proceeds to just breathe life into this wounded bird is the only way to describe it. And she had no idea that I was kind of just a broken mess. And so it's one of those situations where I'll always remember that we have the opportunity to serve the world. And we don't always know why we do what we do or how we show up, but we always have an opportunity to be a better person just because.
Yes.
And so the question I have framing that is not necessarily about me or the situation, but like, how did you come to being who you are, where you literally walk into space and then you're immediately thinking, how do I add value? Yeah. And so what kind of brought you to that? How did you become that person? Were you always that person?
I think, I've always connected to people my entire life. I think I struggle with my identity very early on of, who am I? Who do I want to be? Especially when you're younger, right? You're trying to find yourself, right? Do I want to be a popular kid? And, do I want to be a cool kid? Do I want to be like reserved? Do I want to be observant? And so I remember trying to figure out my way. And I remember even very early on having a spiritual journey. And so I connected with God even before going to church. I just knew that there was a being higher than me. And so I think along the way, as I cultivated my relationship with God, I have started to really walk in my true identity. And I think that identity work is ever growing and ever going, right? So we don't stop that identity work, right? You never arrive at that identity work. And so I'm still doing identity work, but I can say for sure that I am confident in who I am. I am, I used to think, and now I think, right, it's kind of that mindset. Like I used to think that my emotional intelligence wasn't professional enough, wasn't like a go-getter enough, and wasn't boss enough. I now know that is who I am. And if you do not connect to humanity, if you do not connect to the heart of people, you can't be successful in this world. That I don't define success in that world. So when I walk in a room, I don't think, how can I add value to this room? I think about like, how can I connect authentically to people? Like, I'm just not interested. I'm at a space in my life where I'm just not interested in surface conversations. I tell that to my husband all the time. He's like, babe, talk to me. I was like, yeah, but this feels very forced. I really want to go deep all the time. And he's like, we don't have time for that. But I feel like people are like, we run in the surface. Like we walk in the surface all the time and people are looking for deepness. Like they're looking for connection. And so I think about like, how can I connect authentically and leave a legacy? So I think those are the things that go in my mind. Yeah.
Interesting enough, you say that, there's these moments where I feel like, I think there are people who either get it are starting to get it or struggle with getting it.
Yeah.
And I find that when you're a person that's willing to show up as you for real, sometimes it rubs people the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And it makes you start to question, like, is it me? Like, am I doing something wrong? How do you continue to persist and live knowing this is who you are? Mm-hmm. This is what you bring to the world, despite, I want to say, like, I'll say shade, because I think it's really shade from other people who really are upset because they're struggling to see their own light.
Yes.
Like, how do you, what do you say to that? How do you encourage other people out there who are like, but when I show up as myself, and y'all, we're not talking about showing up ratchet. I love y'all, but we not talking about being ratchet. We talking about being authentically kind, right? And loving and caring and nurturing in a world where those aren't necessarily skills that everyone understands the importance of in the workplace, in community, in friendships.
Yeah. So that's a really good question. I think one thing I will say for sure, although I'm still doing identity work, I have overcome that work. Mm. You got to know when you, like, checkbox, like, I am not struggling to fit in. I am not struggling. That is not my area anymore, right? Like, so when I walk in the room and I understand that maybe my presence might offend someone, right? Or they're feeling like, oh, she's too much, or she's too confident, right? Right? Like, that doesn't affect me like it used to affect me, because I see hurt, I see pain, I see, like, the root of that is not me. So when I sit with that, like, the root of that is not me. That person has been hurt. That person is in pain. That person has a struggle area. When I walk in the room and I see people that may not fully accept who I am, I'm okay with that, because I'm not for everybody. And I understand that, but it doesn't change who I am. And so I think one thing that I'm intentional about is surrounding my community, though. Oh, my community loves me. Oh, they love me.
That part.
They love me, right? So I think be intentional about who you surround yourself with, right? You don't have to surround yourself with people who you feel like you have to constantly prove something to. That is not your people. That is not your people. And so that whole, like, uphill battle of, like, likability, no, not mine. Not mine. Not mine. Okay? Hear me clearly. It's not mine. Because that thing is hard. It's heavy. And so go where you are wanted. Go where people see you. And I think those are the things that I'm so intentional about. So I don't struggle as much when people aren't, they don't really welcome me as fully. And I'm okay with that. That's okay.
You say it's such an important point to make. I think there are times where people are looking for everyone to like them, which actually means no one really likes you.
Yeah.
Because we're not for everyone. Yeah. So the idea that you've already decided, like, I'm willing to go where I'm loved. Mm-hmm. I don't need to sit at your table because there's one over here. Mm-hmm. And if it's not big enough, we can add to it.
Yeah.
But knowing that I don't have to compete to be a part of something that, if we really pan out, I'm not meant to be a part of.
Exactly.
So saying that and thinking about it that way, there are some values that ground who and whom you engage with. Yeah. Right? What are those values that you have that are non-negotiables in terms of the type of community that you fill your life with?
Yeah. So the first thing I will say is, and this is so unrehearsed. So as it's asking me the question, I'm like thinking, like, the first thing that comes to my mind is reciprocity. I need reciprocity in all of my relationships. Now, I read this book called Relational Intelligence, and it talks about, like, how to assign people in your life, right? And so now I'm more knowledgeable about how to assign people, right? And so is this my assignment? Meaning the reciprocity won't look like the same because I'm assigned to you. And so I'm a pourer in that relationship. I am a pourer. You are not pouring back to me. I am a pourer because I'm assigned to you, right? And so I'm okay with that. If I'm assigned to you, I'm okay with that. If this is a friendship, though, I need reciprocity. And I think before I used to constantly pour and never really realize I'm not being poured back into. And so then resentment grows, right? And so I value reciprocity, and what I've been challenging myself with is the wait time in reciprocity, right? And so I'm a pourer, but you got to stop. tamper that pour.
Is it a shot glass? Is it an 8-ounce glass?
Put the glass down, okay? Is that person pouring back to you? Do an assessment of some sort, right? What do you need? And that's the other thing is like people don't know what they need. And so they get offended when they don't get what they need. But you don't even know what you need. And so you need to know thyself. What season are you in, right? And so I am in a season where I am saying please and thank you. That's the season I'm in. And that's uncomfortable for me because I like pouring into people. I love encouraging people. But now I'm in a receiver like mode. And so I have to be able to be, to receive from people. I think also like the heart posture is very important to me. Like, where is your heart? Like this generation of like, what have you done for me lately? Or like this, like, what can you do? This opportunist mindset, like I'm a grinder, like people, I'm gonna get with this person because they could do this for me. That to me is like, I repel against things like that. Like to the point where my husband always pushes me like, babe, you're not that person, right? So, but you do have to network. You got to go make friends, baby. Like, you know where you want to go and you got to meet with people. But like, I just don't want to, I don't want to come across as an opportunist. And like, I know people like that. And so I really value authenticity. Like I want authenticity in the relationship. I really do value that. And so in kindness, right? Like, I know that sounds cliche, but like, are you kind?
For real.
Are you kind?
For real.
Please be kind. Because, oh my goodness, like living in this world, we were just talking about this before the podcast, like living in this world is so heavy. People are mourning, right? People are grieving deaths of all kinds and losses of all kinds. Like their souls are not well. Like, and we meet them at the Dunkin' Donuts and we meet them at work and we meet them and we're just going about our business because we got so much stuff going on. But like seeing that person be like, are you good? How are you? Like, oh, I bought you a cup of coffee. Yeah, no worries. Like just acts of kindness go a long way and the people are seen through acts of kindness. And so I value kindness of all kinds. And I know they don't always look the same, but it's a heart posture.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was reading something the other day and it really kind of hit on this idea of like, you never know how many lives you've saved in the course of your day, which is kind of what it was talking about. Like you go into the Dunkin' Donuts to get something and you may have an interaction that you don't even remember. But the way you interacted with that person made them feel seen in that moment. And because we don't actually know what anyone's really going through, this idea of being nice, being kind, being caring for no reason at all,
right?
To me is like, it's almost like a basic. Like if that's basic, if you can't get there, I'm not sure what else you're doing. Yeah. Right. But at the same time, you have people who are not doing the internal work to kind of estimate and figure out like, where is it I am and where I need to go and what's that middle passage work, like, so everyone's so busy. This idea of being transactional is really harmful. Yes. Because that means that I don't actually invest my real self in any of my interactions.
Right. There's no depth.
There's no depth. So to your point of like this surface interaction, and I almost think that we're being taught to do that. And so to resist that urge to say like, what has connected us and allowed us to get this far is human interactions that are meaningful.
That's it. We are built for community.
100%.
We are built for community. And the more you're talking, the more I'm thinking about like how kindness is reciprocity. Right? And it's very it's reciprocity because not only does the other person feel seen, but because you're built for community, there is something that you feel good about when you're kind. Right. And so, it is this idea that kindness is in its essence is reciprocity and we are built for it. So,
well, it's like, I think of it like a dopamine hit.
Yes.
Like when you know you've made someone's day, you're like, let's go.
Let's go.
You know what I mean?
Let's do it.
Unfortunately, there are people that when they don't make your day, they're like, let's go. So, you don't think about what that looks like. But what's so wild is that a lot of times people get to where they are and they don't really take time to like be proud of themselves. Right. And to clap for themselves. Yeah. And they don't know how to motivate other people to do the same. Yeah. And so you and I think, have played that role for each other. Yes. So this notion of reciprocity, talk to folks who are confused, like, because there are times where I'm pouring and there's times that you're pouring, right? And to me, those times look different. Like I had a season this past year that like I was just weak and exhausted. And you were pouring like 70%. Like, you got this, girl, keep going, right? And then there may be times that you are like struggling. I'm like, you got this. Like, talk to people who are confused that a pour is not always the same.
Yeah. The pour is not always the same, and it's not always at the same time.
That part.
Right. And so, someone really recently told me this, that people, and it's biblical as well, people should be filling themselves up from your overflow. So what does that mean? That means that I need to be prayed up. I need to be in good spirits. I need to be, good with self so that it's running over. And therefore, you get to benefit from the work that I did, because now you get to benefit from my overflow. It's not taken from my reserves. I'm full. It runneth over. And so therefore, you get to scoop up your cup next to my runneth over, and you get to have some of this. So, but it's not your responsibility to always fill my cup. That is my responsibility, right? I have to do the work, but connect with some good souls that could say, not today. I know you are natural pourer. I know that you want to speak life into me, but I see it in you and you don't have it today. Right?
So the notion of also being compassionate, and being able to let the person who's always strong, know that you don't have to do that today. Like today we're gonna work on you, right? So not just being able to look at the folks and reciprocate with them, but sometimes when you listen, y'all, when you got real friends, they're gonna tell you when you being too much for yourself.
Right?
They're gonna say, Ed, I can see that you're falling apart, and you still like, I got you.
I got you. I'm gonna hold you up, girl.
Right?
Yeah, it's like, girl, you falling apart.
Sit down. You're about to fall down. But in there is this opportunity for honesty.
Yes.
Which I think is the root, and what I think I didn't do well and didn't understand well when I was younger. It's like people who care about you are going to tell you the true things that you may not really want to hear.
Yeah.
And you have to trust those conversations are coming from the best place possible.
That's right. That's right. I think, that community and knowing people have the best interests, right? Like their intentions are good. I think also understanding that the expertise of that individual, right? Are you able to receive from whoever is assigned to you, right? So my whole thing is like, oh, Eb, you're, an intellectual. We can have these conversations. But what if you're being called to like pour into my spirit, right? And you're like pouring like God into me. And I only saw you one way though. No, this is my intellectual friend. We have intellectual conversations, right? And then you pivot into some other area that I didn't necessarily know you as, so I can't receive it. And so I think you have to be open to receive from people that you've put into one category, or you've said, no, they know this, but then they're trying to like pour in another area of your life. Be open to that. I think my older sister at this time in my life, she's like really pushing me like in this entrepreneurial world, which, by the way, I don't glorify entrepreneurship like a lot of people do. I'm like, dear God, no, thank you.
It's a struggle bus,
Listen, give me the stability, Lord. But I'm being pushed in this area, right? And so my sister does so many check-ins with me. She like tells me like, all right, you have your work days. Did you work today? How long did you work? What'd you work on? Right? And this is my sister. We send memes to each other, right? We fun. So you want joy? That's our relationship, right? But now she's pushing me in another area. Am I open to it? So I think you have to just be open to receiving whatever people are trying to pour into you.
Yeah, for sure. And the idea that seasons change. So who I was yesterday might not be who I am in 5 years. And being open to the idea that like different seasons I might fulfill a different role.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I had this other memory, which is super funny, is I went to New Orleans and I had to go to this conference and I was going by myself. And there was other stuff going on in the background, but anyone who actually knows me, while people may think that I love like the cameras and all this stuff, I actually don't like to network. I always get super nervous and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's gonna go bad. So I called Dynell, because Dynell is like, literally like, I got you, girl, you got this. And she says to me, you better not sit in the corner. Baby doesn't sit in the corner. And I'm cracking up while simultaneously terrified because I'm like, I got to go talk to people and I don't know them. And so one of the things I think I will always think about you or categorize if I had to describe you as a person that always claps for people.
Yeah.
Whether it's your season or not. Like when people need someone to clap for them, you're like, I'm here. I got you. Right.
Yes.
How did you get to the, like, because there are some folks, like, I'm kind of similar. Like, man, if it ain't my season, but it's yours, I'm all in. Like, right?
Right.
Not everybody's like that.
Yeah.
So what do you think has led you to that place to really be that champion for folks? Because sometimes I can't even see that I was going to be successful in the moment. I'm just like, I'm going to just give up. And because you're like, no, then I have Dynell in my mind as I'm going to meet people. Like, okay, I got to talk.
Yeah.
How did you get to that place? And why do you do it so often? Like, it's like a natural habit of you. Like, you just kind of show up and support folks.
Yeah, I think I just want to be, I think it really starts with listening to people. Like, you have to listen to what's being said and what's not being said. I will say I believe it's a gifting. So I'm not saying that everybody is wired in the same way I'm wired, right? And people their wiring or their leaning is different and they're special in their own wiring. And I'm in awe of people's gifts. And I'm like, man, this person, like, they get it. They, and I love that for them, right? But I may not be wired in that area. I do think I'm wired in encouragement, right? I am a natural encourager. I think it starts with listening. I just listen intently to people. I want people to know, not only did I hear you, I understood. Is this what you said? Because I think that's, for me, I'm trying to allow the person to know that they've been seen by me. If I'm the only person that you talked to today, not only did I listen to you, I heard you, I understood what you were saying, and I have some feedback, if you allow, right? And so I had to grow in that area of the feedback part because I would just automatically start. And people were like, yeah, I didn't really want all that. I'm like, you right. Okay. Am I just in listening mode, right? So I had to grow in that area, but I do think it's just really, really important to see people, to encourage people. Now, you mentioned this earlier, and I will say this, the area that I am growing in, that I have, some work to do is celebrating my own wins, right? And so, look, with every, there's always a push and a pull, right? So I may be I'm wired in this way, but how come I can't give it to myself, right? And so I have to intentionally surround myself and be clear with my community that I often don't celebrate my wins. And so if you see me bypassing something that is extraordinary, stop me. Stop me. And so putting that disclaimer allows my community to show up for me. Going back to that whole knowing what you need, how you're wired, allows your friends, allows your community to show up properly for you.
How did you learn that it's your responsibility to communicate to other people what you need?
Ooh, man. Marriage. 15 years. 15 years of teaching some stuff. Let me tell you. I'm like, why he not reading my mind? Am I not being clear in my mind? Husband, my husband always said, babe, you are so movie. I didn't grow up, seeing a good marriage, right? And so I'm out here making it up on TV. I'm like, excuse me, the Huxtables would never. Right? And so Hallmark movies would never, right? And he's like, babe, you are so movie. And so I had to learn what does a real relationship look like? What does my relationship look like? And it looks like me communicating. And my husband told me this in the first year of marriage, and it stuck with me. He says, my intentions are never to hurt you. I'm never intending to hurt you, but I'm not perfect. And so you have to communicate with me. You're going to have to talk to me. We're going to have to work through this, right? And so I noticed that when I was clear, when I did open my mouth, actually, I saw behavior changes, right? I saw things change. It's only when it was in my head that I saw no change. But I did feel the ramifications of, that hurt or that pain or whatever it was. I felt it, but I didn't open up. I didn't verbally say anything. And so I'm like, I don't always want to feel it, right? What does it look like to open up your mouth and actually allow the person to do some behavior changes if they know? And so once I realized that I can do that with my husband, I started doing it with my friends. I've been having hard conversations with my friends about like what I need in this friendship and what I've been feeling in this friendship. And it's not their fault, right? I just didn't open my mouth. And so when I started to open my mouth, I realized my community wanted to show up for me. I wasn't allowing them to.
That's huge, because a lot of people are like, these people they suck. They're not this or they're not that. And it's like, well, did you let them know what you needed?
Right.
And then it goes back to, do you even know what you need?
Yeah.
Right? So, and it's interesting because someone else had shared that as like this idea of like, you got to know what you need in order to heal.
Right.
Like if you don't know where you're at, then you're just kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks. So for people out there who are struggling with the next step, what's your advice?
Oh my goodness. Next step in like...
The next step.
Just the next
So, right.
Yeah.
So there are moments where people are like, how you doing that? But I'm just like, man, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the next step is.
Right.
And so like, then it's like, well, I'm just going to sit here until I can figure out the next step.
Yeah.
So what is your advice to someone who's kind of in that struggle season? And doesn't, let me say it this way, doesn't know how to coach themselves or talk to themselves in a way that grants themselves grace? Because everyone gets to a place where they don't know the next step.
Right. Oh my goodness. Like, do you know I'm praying for clarity right in this moment, right? Like just in my own life, I'm praying for clarity. I need clarity in the next step. But let me say this. What I will say is that find someone that you can trust, that you can have a conversation with, right? A lot of times we are working in silos. It's all in us. It's in our head. It's in our behavior. It's that the story is replaying in our minds. And so we're sitting with so much and we're so heavy that we feel paralyzed. And so going back to like how we are built for community, you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. Understand that. You will, because you're not built to. You will not be able to do it by yourself. It's okay if you need some stillness, and some silence and just some time alone. That's fine. Understand that. That's fine. You just won't make movement that way. You will need people. And so once you've, sat with yourself, you've kind of like thought about it. And even if you don't have all the language, find someone you trust and just say, listen, here's where I am. I don't know what I need right now, but I just want to have a conversation. I'm going to begin to, some people, I saw this video and I was like, dang, this is me and my husband. Some people, they said talk to think, and some people think to talk. So talk to think is like, while I'm talking right now, I'm thinking like, okay, now I'm getting clarity because I'm talking and now I get clarity in my thoughts. And some people think first. This is my husband. He thinks first and then he talks. Once he made a decision once he talked. I don't make a decision. I'm thinking through my decisions through my talking. And so if that's the way you're wired, then you need to find someone that you can talk to, that you can like outwardly process with and say, look, I'm not looking for an answer right now. I just want to talk through some of my ideas. I want to just talk through some of the things that I'm going through. I just want to talk through whatever it is. But I do think you have to do some self-excavation work and figure out what it is that you need. That is not someone else's responsibility. So you got to do a self-audit. What area do I feel the most depleted? Is it when I think about my job? Is it when I think about my family? Is it what areas do you feel depleted? Because this world, as we mentioned before, is very heavy. And so you do have to do some kind of work. You can't expect, here's what I don't want to pretend, right? That you're going to talk to somebody, you're going to feel 100% better, right? No, because you got to do some work.
Yeah.
You got work to do and it will take motion. I just want to end with that. It will take motion. It can't be all thoughts and processing. It will take motion. So you have to move. You have to move. And so you think, communicate, move. That's your next step. Move. If you don't know where to move, continue to communicate, talk it through, move, right? And so sometimes we get paralyzed in what we're thinking and we don't move. And so it's all up here. It's all heady. Yeah.
That's great. Listen, y'all, I just blessed you today. I hope you appreciated the gift that is Dr. Dynell Kellyman.
Oh, my goodness.
We're coming up on time, so I have one final question for you. What does it mean to be a kind soul?
Yeah. I love this question. I listen to other people answer this, and I think what it means to be a kind soul is showing up as your best self. Your best self. Showing up as your best self. Not only for others, but for yourself. First for yourself. Because when you can show up as your best self for yourself, then people can benefit from that overflow. You know, we talked about that earlier. And so showing up as your best self for other people, not because you want something from them, not because they can do something for you, because it's the right thing to do. And I don't want anything in return. I just want to show, I think you deserve my best self today. That to me is that's the blessing. That is the blessing.
Man, I'm so happy we got to chop it up a little bit today.
Same.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, of course.
Y'all listen, we all get opportunities to like be in community and have awesome people in your lives, hopefully. And if you don't, Dynell just gave you a masterclass on how to find those people. Like, what are the people that are your people? Dynell is part of my tribe. She's an amazing human. And I hope you took some gems today in terms of who you're becoming and how you can kind of live your life in service of others. I hope you have an amazing week, y'all. Remember, do not let anyone take the joy out of your joy. And in the process, just continue to be your kindest, most gentlest self. Have an amazing week, y'all. Take care. Peace.